The Detroit Tigers played a spring training game on Tuesday. You may have heard about it. We're going to talk about Kenta Maeda. He looks great. We're going to talk about some roster cuts that were made, kind of trimming down the roster as we get closer to opening day. We'll talk about Casey Mize, player preview his 2024 season. And we will obviously talk about the inning that is sweeping the nation in Jackson Jobe. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy midway point in the week. Tuesday was an electric factory. We had a Bally Sports Detroit broadcast of just a 1-0 Tigers victory in a spring training game. Okay. Everybody that took the mound on Tuesday's game looked awesome. We're going to talk a lot about Kenta Maeda, Alex Faedo, Bo Brisky, a couple of offensive performances, but they only scored a run on 4 hits, so not a boatload. The star of the show, the one who is really star of the show, whatever, stole the show, certainly, was Jackson Jobe in the 9th inning, getting a save in this spring training game, set the world on fire. And that is the biggest storyline in this game comfortably. It is what we are also going to talk about on this show. We're going to talk about some roster cuts that were made as we trim this roster more and more down. And then we are going to player preview Casey Mize, his highly anticipated return to the diamond here in 2024. Okay, let's bury the lead a little bit. I'm going to try not to jump the gun here and talk a boatload just about Jobe for half an hour, even though I don't think too many people would have a problem with that after Tuesday. But we have a lot of other things we need to discuss as well. I want to start off with Kenta Maeda. Looked absolutely fantastic. 4 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Looked stellar. Genuinely stellar. The splitter was splitting. Let me tell you, that was a very, very effective pitch in this one. The velocity continues to go up a little bit as well. In his first outing, everybody freaked out because his velocity was low, and he and some of our beat writers were all over it. Him and his camp and the Tigers were like, he doesn't throw over the winter really, and uses spring training to really get that arm back up. And we have no reason to believe he won't be ready by opening day. He was throwing 90 in this one. His first outing, he was throwing like 88. So we're taking steps in the right direction. Still a little bit lower than what we want to see from him in the regular season. But certainly, steps there. And again, 4 innings, 7 Ks, 3 base runners, no runs. Not a bad day at the office. He has a straight fastball. Then he has a fastball that moves. Then he has the splitter. And he just tunnels the ever-living heck out of him. And it's basically a guessing game at some point as a hitter. Very, very fun to watch him pitch. He's got such a high, AJ has talked about it. He has such a high pitching IQ. And it looks like when he's up there, I think the AJ Hinch quote earlier was everything he throws just has an intention. Like every single pitch he throws an entire outing has a purpose one way or another. And I have already found joy in watching him pitch. This was obviously a really good outing, but I thought he looked great. I thought he looked really good to lefties, throwing outside that splitter that's like kind of starts in the middle and then falls to still being kind of close to a strike, low on the outside half of the plate to lefties, and then righties just toying with them with the slider in the dirt. Really, really fun to watch go about his business. So again, a couple miles an hour more on the velo by opening day. We're all good. Alex Faedo looked great as well. Like I said, pretty much everyone that took the mound for the Tigers in this game, not pretty much, literally everybody that took the mound, I thought was really solid. Alex Faedo, 2 innings of perfect ball with 2 strikeouts. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Only did fastball slider, 2-pitch mix in this one, but I'm so tired of the back and forth and back and forth. Is he a starter, reliever, starter, reliever? I've been asking this for like a calendar year now. I just want the organization to pick one, and that's just what he is. And I'm hoping that this spring is kind of an enlightening experience in that regard, and kind of open the eyes to be like, yeah, like this is probably just that. This is probably a reliever long term. This stuff is probably a reliever long term, and so I think he looked really, really good. The slider to both, he talked about it after his outing. The slider to both righties and lefties, really effective in this one. So yeah, man, I'm super, super excited about what I saw out of him. I would love to. I mean, we can just. I can be blunt about it. I want him to be on the opening day roster. I don't think he's going to be. I think that they are going to Joey Wentz out of options, a few other factors in play there. I don't think he's going to be on the opening day roster, but I do expect him to pitch in the majors plenty this season out of the bullpen as a multi-inning reliever, and I hope that that's the role he kind of takes on. Bo Brisky, 2 innings of no hit ball with 1 walk and 1 strikeout. ERA stays at 0 in spring training. I just love the way his fastball plays so much more out of the bullpen. As a starter, that was kind of one of the bigger gripes that I had with how he looked. You know, the changeup is such a plus pitch and is such an effective and really good pitch. We're still waiting on the slider. He threw it decently in this game. I thought that it was a fine pitch, but the biggest thing has been and will continue to be, like I said, the slider. But I think that the biggest change, rather, from when he was a starter to reliever was the fastball. I like so much more playing out of the bullpen. So yeah, really good for everybody. Obviously, we'll talk about Jobe here in a second. Everybody pitched really well in this ball game, though. I mean, 1 hit as a team and no runs against. Not a bad day at the office. Only scored 1 run and only had 4 hits from the Tigers offense. The only performances I really want to point out are Mark Canha. I thought took some pretty good ABs in this game. He doesn't have very good stats to start off spring here, but I thought that his at-bats were pretty solid in this outing. So I wanted to give him some flowers there. And then Gio Urshela is the other one. I thought that he put together some good ABs, was making some decent contact with the ball. Obviously came into camp late. We kind of expected him, said late with a heck of an accent there. We kind of expected him to maybe be a little bit slower in catching up to speed and getting his timing down. But yeah, I thought that this was kind of the first outing. I was like, okay, like that looks much more like what we want to see out of him in the regular season. Okay. The storyline, the big story that is not only sweeping this game, but is sweeping that is sweeping across the country, baseball fans everywhere. Not only the biggest story in this game, but one of the biggest stories in all of spring training games on Tuesday, which, however big of a story you think spring training baseball is the incredible performance from Jackson Jobe on Tuesday afternoon. I don't know. I feel like in Talladega Nights where Will Ferrell is like, I don't know what to do with my hands. That's how I feel. He was absolutely remarkable. If you didn't watch it, please do. Go. I'm sure Chris Brown of Motor City Metrics has already tweeted out the entire inning. If MLB TV, I think they have like archive of old games. Hopefully they do it with spring training games. Maybe it'll be on YouTube here in the next little bit. I don't know. Find a way to watch it. Find some way to make your life better and watch this inning from Jackson Jobe. I got a lot to say on it, which probably is going to come across as not very much to say on it at all, because it's either going to be rambling about just how cool I thought it was, or I'm going to be speechless again like I was earlier. Okay, let's get into that right after this. Got to talk to you all today about our friends over at Prize Picks. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. So get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, college basketball entries on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. There's so many fun. There's players and stats, and you're selecting more or less on some of those stats. So Steph Curry, more than a certain amount of points. Hopefully he's healthy and back the remainder of the way. The Western Conference in general is just an absolute bleep show. It's going to be a really, really fun end of the season in that regard. I always like taking Jalen Duren more on rebounds. That's usually something that has been beneficial to me. Okay. I like Jalen Duren a lot. Caitlin Clark, obviously one of the biggest names in the sport. Really fun to get on the action on it there as well. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow talking about some spring training baseball, talking about some more performances as well. Some player previews as well, obviously. We're getting close to the end, though. Close to done with all of our player previews. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, now also available on Amazon Fire TV for free in the free Fire TV channels app. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk Jackson Jobe. That was one of the most absurd innings of baseball I have truly ever seen from a pitcher's perspective. That was, I'm trying to think of adjectives to describe it. I don't know if I even can. I was speechless earlier. I sat on my couch 30 minutes after the game ended and just sat there and was like laughing at one point. I don't know. It was a weird time in my life. And I'm not sure what the emotions were. But that was really, really fun. For those who aren't aware, he pitched 1 inning of perfect baseball, had 2 strikeouts under his belt. So he starts off, he comes out of the pen, and it's a 1-run game in a spring training game. And you're like, okay, well, it's spring training. Can't imagine it's super competitive, but it's a 1-run game. He's in for the save and in a close ball game here. Let's see what happens. First pitch is 100-mile-an-hour cheddar. First pitch. And you go, okay, well, that was crazy. Then he goes 101, and you go, okay, what is happening? He then gets a ground out. You go, okay, well, that was good at bat, right? Good AB, solid. The second at bat is where you really looked around and went, something different is actually happening. This isn't normal. And I don't know what I'm watching, but something really, really, really cool is happening. And he threw 101 miles an hour again. He threw a slider that got a swing and a miss, the big sweeper we've been hearing about since draft night. I don't think he got pinched. I think it was probably a ball just a hair outside. 102-mile-an-hour fastball up and away, just a hair outside. And then gets the 100-mile-an-hour fastball buckled the hitter's knees right at the bottom of the strike zone. Then in the third at-bat, gets a swing and miss on his cutter that has like 2,700 RPM spin and yet goes 96 miles an hour, by the way, and gets a swing and miss there, and then just absolutely dismantles all of the hitters, but ends the outing with a swing and miss on a changeup. I think the Tigers tweeted out the word Joe-bliterate. And that's what it felt like. It was, again, it was one of those things you were watching and you were like, this isn't normal. And we can talk about the numbers, right? I could tell you about the 2,900 RPM sweeper and the the cutter that's 96 but has the spin of a slider, or the fastball that has crazy good, whatever is 2600 spin on it as well, and went 102 miles an hour. The changeup that had like 75 feet of drop, it felt like, and was pretty much unhittable. We could talk about all of that, but let's just, sometimes I get yelled at for being too numbers oriented by some of y'all. So we can even just throw that out the window, dog. And we can just, just on vibes. What do the kids say? Aura. His aura was immaculate. It was forget you. That was the message he was sending. He went on the mound and immediately started pumping Ched, right? And didn't stop. And he said before he went out there he was going to let it fly, and boy did he. That was forget you stuff. That was, on the strikeout at the knees of, I forget who the hitter was, but with the 101 mile an hour strikeout out the knees that wasn't swung at, turned around, didn't even look at the umpire's call, right? Made sure everyone knew the mound was his home. And I can't say enough good things about it. I almost feel like this is just like rambling about how cool something was. And like, it's a spring training game. And I know, like, I've been I've talked about, it's spring training. Let's take it all with a grain of salt. Let's be measured about it. For an inning, let's just not do that, right? We'll allow it. For an inning, let's just get way too excited about a spring training inning. I know some people are still going to be like, no, you shouldn't. He faced, minor leaguers, whatever. I don't care. I just watched the best pitching prospect this organization has throw 102 miles an hour. I don't care who the opponent was, dog. It's the first time he's stepped on a major league mound. He threw 102. And there's not a ton of analysis here. I'm realizing, right? And I try my best to do that on a day-to-day basis. I think some people would have varying opinions of how well I do that. But, I realize there's a lack of analysis here. And this is just kind of like, look how cool this was. But that's kind of all there is. Right? It was an inning and it was awesome. And we talked about the pitches and how good they looked. And he's got 4 different pitches that have 4 different shapes and 3 different velocities on them. Like it's, I don't know how people hit them. And they didn't really very well last year. And it was just so cool to see from all the controversy on his draft night from everybody, myself included, obviously stirring that pot like that, just to see him look as good as he did and look as confident as he did. That was just an awesome, awesome, awesome moment. And as far as, introductions to a fan base go, there's a lot of people out there that haven't seen him pitch before. As far as introductions go, it's hard to get better than that. So, the last thing I'll say about it is in terms of what to expect out of him this year, I think he's going to be pitching Major League Baseball this season. I don't think it's going to be in May. I don't think it's going to be in June, but I don't think, pitchers' arms are fragile and they can go away like that. I don't think you waste innings out of a kid's arm when he's ready. So I've been saying it all winter. I think kind of like August, maybe post trade deadline, or maybe just second half in general is kind of where I'm leaning. But I do expect this kid to, assuming health, pitch in the major leagues this year. And that's really exciting. I know there's not too much analysis here and we're just kind of rambling about how cool it was, but it was just so cool. How can you not? Right. So spring training, yes, not trying to make too much of it, not trying to put any more pressure on this kid's shoulders or overhype the situation at all. But when you look like that, I don't think that is overhype. I think that's just reacting to something that deserves a lot of hype. Okay, let's talk about roster cuts. Not a ton of surprises here, but the Tigers do trim their roster down to 44 players. Mason Engler, Wilmer Flores, Kiter Montero, Dylan Dingler, Eddie Leonard, Wensiel Perez, Devin Sweet, Sean Gunther, Donnie Sands, TJ Hopkins, all down to minor league camp. The first half of those, Mason Engler, Wilmer Flores, Kiter Montero, Dylan Dingler, Eddie Leonard, Wensiel Perez, option to AAA Toledo. So Englert expected. Flores, I think we see him in Detroit at some point this year, but not on opening day. Never was going to. Kiter Montero, really pumped to see him pitch this week as well. We'll see how that goes, but a guy that may pitch in the majors also at some point this season. Dylan Dingler wasn't going to make the team. Winfield Perez, not. The one everyone's pointing to is like Winfield Perez. Look, I get it, right? He plays shortstop, and everybody can't stand Javi right now, and he's hitting really well. I understand that was like never going to happen. That was like a ridiculous notion to ever, think that he was going to like take the shortstop job on opening day or something. And he's not like a finished product. It's not like, oh, he's hitting over 300 in spring training. He's going to be really good to make. Like, there's still a lot of defensive questions around him. There's still a lot of like sample size stuff offensively and some things in the zone offensively that they want him to work on. So I he might play his way. I love what I've seen from him. Don't get me wrong. Love the player. And super excited for his season because of what we got him for pretty much nothing. So really, really excited about his season, but like the notion that, like it's ridiculous that he isn't on the major league roster and Javi is like, I don't know what to tell you. This was always going to happen. Like there was never a conversation. So, okay, let's keep the ball rolling. Let's talk Casey Mize. We will do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at GameTime. GameTime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front as well, so you know you're getting a great deal before you even check out. GameTime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. That's why it's my favorite place to buy tickets. The only place I use really these days, because I can get my last minute seats and my, just random, I don't know, whenever I just randomly really want to go to a Tiger game at the last second, impulse, I guess is the word, I can go and count on GameTime. So download GameTime today and take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Use code LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, all one word, capital L, capital O, $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. Talking about Casey Mize, his highly anticipated 2024. He obviously hasn't pitched. Not only has he not pitched in 2 years, we're 3 seasons removed from his last like legitimate sample size. Like, even though, he technically did pitch in 2022, he threw 10 innings. Like, the last time he really pitched was 2021. It's wild to think about. So, in that season, he had a 3.71 ERA, a 1.2 Fangraphs WAR, a 7.06 K per nine, 2.45 walk per nine, and a 1.44 home run per nine. He gave up quite a few homers. 150 and a third innings pitched in 30 starts. Went 7-9 in the win-loss column for those who care about pitching wins and losses. So yeah, this is probably going to be a shorter breakdown because we don't know what we don't know. And I wanted to at least get him a few starts under his belt before I did this preview, because I wanted to at least get somewhat of an idea of what we were going to see out of him stuff wise. But this is a guy that in 2021 didn't have swing and miss stuff. In whiff rate, he was toward the bottom of the league in 22nd percentile, bottom quarter of the league. K rate, 20th percentile, bottom 5th of the league. Chase rate, 17th percentile, bottom 5th of the league. So did not have a ton of swing and miss stuff. And the fastball averaged 93.9 miles an hour. All of the expected stats because of that are way higher than the actual ERA, right? His expected ERA was almost 5 in 2021, despite the actual ERA being 3.71. Now, the results are the results. He had 30 starts and had a sub 4. Like, that's solid. But the reason why those numbers are higher, is all I'm saying, is because he couldn't get swings and misses, and he wasn't a big strikeout guy. He was pitching to a lot of contact, a lot of decently hard contact as well. Really gave up a lot of barrels, gave up a lot of home runs, 24 home runs given up that year. Also just righty lefties. And part of this we'll get into in a second just comes down to his stuff. 215 batting average, 600 OPS against righties. .256 average, .845 OPS against lefties, 17 home runs given up against left-handed hitting. So, and again, part that I guess transitions us into his stuff. I think the reason why was because let's start with the splitter. Why not? The splitter is a pitch that on draft night we were told was like this incredible pitch that was going to be the reason that he was, a front end starter at the major league level. And it just flat out stopped throwing it at one point in 2021. And it kind of, when he did throw it earlier in the year, was more of a ground ball pitch. Not that the whiff rate was astronomically bad, but it certainly wasn't some elite swing and miss type of pitch. So it got a lot of ground balls. It was something he could try to work into the bottom of the zone. And then at one point again, he just stopped throwing it. And he's openly admitted, like, he just didn't really have a good feel for it. And that's why for a prolonged period of time there, it just wasn't in his repertoire. And so I think that coming back will help limit and just swing and miss stuff in general will help him improve, rather obviously against lefties. But I do think that a pitch that consistently he's going to throw, toward the bottom of the strike zone there is something that will help him, obviously. So when talking about his stuff this year, the fastball has looked good in spring. We're talking about a pitch that has touched 97, has kind of been 95, 96, especially, once he gets settled down in his outings. That's a great sign for a pitch that, again, averaged just under 94 miles an hour, 93.9 in 2021. So that's awesome. And that's the first step towards all of this. I really feel like him reestablishing the splitter is going to be a huge deal. We saw, obviously, with Kenta Maeda today. We saw also with Joe Ryan, both of those pitchers throw really, really good splitters. So I think that, we were seeing kind of firsthand what an effective fastball splitter kind of combination can do there. And Mize's fastball would be faster than either of those guys as well. If it is, spring training is to be believed, which we're not really sure if it is. So that's part of the question mark here. The slider was a pretty effective pitch for him in 2021. And I think that is something that I'm looking for this year as well. If he can, and, we'll see, if he can throw really effectively, throw that fastball really effectively, throw the splitter, and have it be more of a swing and miss pitch, and have the slider look like it did in 2021, there's a pretty good profile here. And I think that the swings and misses then will come with that, etc. I feel like I'm talking in circles here, and I don't know how to avoid that. Like, this is like, we don't know what we don't know with this guy. And I have been impressed what I've seen in the spring with him. But like if he gets settled in and kind of the adrenaline wears off of just coming back and he looks like he did in 2021, then he's going to be a pitch to weak contact bottom of the rotation pitcher. But if he looks, if the stuff that we're seeing in spring, like I said, is to be believed, then there's a lot of kind of untapped potential, dare I say, that's kind of going to be left on the table. The reason that I love Casey Mize is because he's a dog. He is a massive competitor. Just loves to be out there and compete. And between the ears, I think is really, really a valuable piece of the puzzle here with Mize. So I'm really excited for him to get that opportunity. When it comes to what I expect out of him this year, we have to start with, opening day. I think he's in a battle with Reese Olson, and we've talked about that all spring. And there's some people that think Manning is in that conversation as well, and that the free agents plus Skubal are a lock, and it's the other three that are fighting for two spots. I don't see it that way. I think Matt Manning's going to be in this rotation. At this point, I don't think that he's, like in the race or anything. So it's going to be between Mize and Olson. Both of them, no matter what happens on opening day, are going to pitch Major League Baseball for the Detroit Tigers this year. So don't get too upset either way if you have a rooting interest in one way or another. But I think Mize will make the opening day roster. I think he deserves to. I think they'll watch his innings. I'm just, it's tough to give, what do you expect, production wise. I don't know. We have to see how he looks in the regular season, and that's kind of a cop out, I guess. But I don't really know how else to approach it. The big conversation, I'll put it this way: rather than giving you like exact numbers or anything that I expect out of him, because I feel like that's really difficult with him. All I want to see, my benchmark for Casey Mize's 2024, all I want to see is after the season is done, if we can look back and go, there's swing and miss stuff here. I don't care if his ERA is 4.15, 4.3, or if his ERA is 3.3. Well, obviously, I'd much rather be 3.3. But in this context, I don't care what his ERA is. If we can look at him and say, you know what, there is some serious swing and miss potential here. He took great strides. The stuff looked really good all year. He had a healthy season, and the swing and miss stuff got, we finally saw, right? The back injury was a huge problem. Obviously, the new UCL, there is added velocity that's getting more swings and misses. If all of that is to be true, and we see a guy that just proves that he can get consistent swings and misses at the major league level, I'm all good. That's all I need to see this year, and we'll build on it. And next year will be, another year where I think he could probably take a big step forward if he proves that and gets those swings and misses. Okay, so that's really all I'm looking for is whiff ability, we'll call it. Well, how good his whiff rate can be, and how easily he can get swings and misses. Obviously, inherently, that comes with, how does the stuff look? And then obviously, most of all, just stay healthy, big dog. But I'm really, really excited about Mize this season. It could go a million different directions, and that's kind of scary and anxiety inducing, but also, part of the fun of all of it is trying to see what he becomes, and if he does take those big steps forward, or if he kind of reverts back to what he was in 2021 anyway. But only time will tell. We will see. I'm so excited he's back. I'm really happy for him that he's back. 2 years is a long time. And I don't know, based on what I've seen in the spring, I have pretty high hopes. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow. Player preview, spring training, et cetera, et cetera. Getting close to the end to our player previews, like I said earlier. And again, I know that there probably wasn't a lot of analysis in the Jackson Jobe stuff, but I kind of just wanted to let's all put our arms around each other and go, that was just awesome. That was just really cool to watch. Not trying to blow the moment out of proportion either, but I think it's worth kind of freaking out and being super excited about. I certainly am. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers. I already did that. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.